I'm Jayson Jorgensen. It is once again time for another version of Husker Chat. It's brought to you by Acres Equipment. As always, we're joined by Sean Callahan, HuskerOnline.com. Sean, I thought for a moment there, maybe a half, we might have a big Husker upset win to talk about, but unfortunately in Nebraska, not enough in the tank in quarters 3 and 4. They put a good scare into the Gophers, but not enough to get it done.
Yeah, they were really close. I mean, the first half was arguably the best half Nebraska's played all season. The Gophers only had 4 possessions in the first half, and they go 0 for 4. Nebraska scores points on their first 2 drives, touchdown and field goal. And you're like, man, they're really in this thing. But as Mickey Joseph said, Minnesota still was able to stay in their game. I think Nebraska needed to get one more score on there to really get the Gophers out of what they want to do. They weren't a good throwing team. They just wanted to grind and run the ball. And unfortunately, Nebraska's offense went 7 consecutive empty possessions without points, the 7th being a turnover. They had 5 3-and-outs in those 7 empty possessions, and that allowed Minnesota to win the game.
That's been a lot of the talk post-game from that, folks talking about the quarterback situation. It's never easy when you lose your starter. It's too bad Casey Thompson couldn't have played that game. You have to think Nebraska would have put a big run to the Gophers had he been able to play. What's your take on the quarterbacks, and then maybe the bigger story on, them deciding who actually plays and who gets how many snaps?
Yeah, it is quite the issue right now. Casey Thompson, we're not expecting to see him this week. So then that leads you to the discussion of Logan Smothers or Chubba Purdy. And I think we've kind of learned that come hell or high water, Mark Whipple believes in Chubba Purdy, and everybody else and what we've seen in the game shows us that Logan Smothers has played better, at least on Saturdays, but we don't get to see practice. That decision will go all the way down to the end of the week. I think they're going to go with Smothers. I would be surprised if they didn't. I think a lot of Husker fans would be disappointed too, because the way Logan played late in the game, it gave him a spark. Chubba Purdy didn't complete a pass that traveled more than 10 yards the entire game.
That's just tough, and that won't work, especially against Big Ten defenses. That's for sure. I wanted to get your take, and we talk every week, but I really haven't asked you this. It was a tough situation, but overall, how do you feel Mickey Joseph has handled things in this interim role?
Yeah, it's not easy. I think every week it's gotten harder. The first week, obviously, out of the gates, first Oklahoma when they were full strength, then knowing probably you were going to fire Eric Chenander the next week, that was a tough week. But then they settled in, they got the 2 wins, and I would even say the Purdue game, they didn't win, but they played well, and that got people excited into the bye week. But the last 2 weeks at home, with the way they've fallen apart against Illinois and now Minnesota, at the quarterback position particularly, that has made it tough. And then you add in like Miles Farmer this week. He's played the most snaps of any player on defense for Nebraska. Gets a DUI. He's suspended for the game this week at Michigan. So there's just more and more build up, and we don't know where this head coach thing is going. I think there was a time where people thought maybe Mickey has a chance, and maybe he still does, but I think the most people feel like Trev's going to go in a different direction, and when will that be? We don't really know, but I think most assume it's going to be right after the Iowa game.
What's your feeling? And of course, it kind of depends upon who becomes head coach, but do you think there is a way that Mickey Joseph eventually stays on this coaching staff?
That's really up to the new coach. Trev can't dictate that. The new coach makes that decision, the head coach, and he might have a, receivers coach. We don't know these things. And then it also comes down to Mickey. Mickey has to want to be here with the new guy too. It's a 2-way street. And a lot of things will have to happen from now until then to really, paint a picture so we'll know the answer one way or the other.
All right, this week's game at Michigan. Nebraska about as big of an underdog as they've been in a while. 28 points. Your thoughts on this one? However, Michigan, they kind of stumbled around with Rutgers for a while last Saturday before they eventually pulled away.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan, Penn State, they stumbled around on them too, and Penn State's a good team, but the first half, Penn State was really with them until the third quarter it broke open. So they've shown some deficiencies at times, but not many. This is the best team Nebraska will play all year. They've got an elite head coach, Jim Harbaugh, who's a great offensive mind. He gets quarterbacks as ready as well as anybody Nebraska will play. I mean, he's just a great quarterback developer coach. And Blake Corum, they're going to see all these great running backs these 4 weeks. They saw Mo Ibrahim last week. The week before that, Chase Brown. Now it's Blake Corum. The next week, it's Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. So they're going to see a good running back every week, and this week's no different.
The defense, though, does seem to have made some improvement. They've under Bill Bush, they've done some things. They've been able to hang in there and haven't been embarrassed.
Yeah, they've played fast, confident. They've made plays. They're not thinking, and I think that's the key. I don't know if they were playing fast before. They just didn't really have a handle on what they wanted to be in their scheme. Even the pass rush started to get home against Minnesota. I mean, there were a lot of promising things for that defense. Unfortunately, though, when your offense goes 0 for 7 on possessions with 5 3-and-outs in there, it's really hard on a defense, really hard.
All right, Sean, as always, appreciate your time. Hopefully the Nebraska can go hang around, maybe surprise some people in the big house on Saturday.
All right, yeah, it's one of the best places to watch a college football game. Looking forward to going out to Ann Arbor, and hopefully we get a good game out of it too.
All right, that was Sean Callahan of Husker Online joining us. Once again, we are here every week for Husker Chat, and it's brought to you by Acres Equipment. I'm Jayson Jorgensen.